The winds of fortune, nowhere and everywhere. Rhiannos, Waisrangara, Phaleron, Irahara, Lashanar, and Basilius Flint have publicly responded to plenipotentiary messages from archmages. Each archmage has the ability to send a plenipotentiary message to an Eternal once during each summit. Following the autumn equinox, 6 Eternals have responded to these messages. Some have confirmed that they accept a formal parley, others have agreed to a less formal meeting, and Rhiannos has declined a meeting but offered other aid. In each case, the Eternals have specified the topics about which they or their representatives will discuss. Within the bounds of the parley, they are likely to refuse to discuss matters that fall outside the potentially rigid list of things that they have agreed. It is still possible to try and bring up topics outside the matters agreed in advance, but there is absolutely no guarantee that the representative of the realms will want to discuss them, and some of the more formal entities might well be annoyed enough to end the parley early if they are badgered by, for example, a crowd of magicians all wanting their opportunity to explain why the Eternal should pay attention to them. We'll start with Irahara. Irahara offers parley with the Spring Archmage at 10 p.m. on Friday. At the start of the winter solstice, the Archmage of Spring is Sir Fabienne de Miel. The message from Irahara is terse, to the point of rudeness, delivered by a youthful Varushkan briar in the form of a square of dirty paper, containing only a few badly scrawled words. The translation indicates that the Spring Archmage can come to a meeting if they desire, but only the Spring Archmage. It will take place on Friday night at 10, and a herald will be sent to bring the Archmage from the Hall of Worlds to a place of parley. Next is Basilius Flint. A parley is offered between the Autumn Archmage and a small party and the Vizier of the Cassinean Empire at 11 p.m. on Friday. At the start of the winter solstice, the Autumn Archmage is Marcus of Ensmeet. A metal-skinned herald with curling horns, face marked with piercings, brings a message from Basilius Flint, the sovereign lord of the City of Locks. The Eternal is interested in a formal parley between the Autumn Archmage and a high-ranking member of his staff, who he refers to as the Vizier of the Cassinean Empire. Flint requests that the Archmage bring Adelina of Felix's watch, and no more than one other individual. A guide will be dispatched to the Hall of Worlds at midday on Saturday. In addition, the herald requests that the Archmage bring with them a dose of one of the lethal poisons known to Imperial apothecaries from either the Winter Moon or the Assassin's Gate. It is up to them which one of the 4 deadly substances they bring along. The herald who will escort the party will have a suitable container to hold the poison so that it does not lose its potency. As per the Archmage's letter, the Keeper of the Weir will provide opportunities for the Archmage to acquire information about the Druge relationship with the Eternals. There will also be an opportunity to discuss the matter of gaining maps of the territories of the Druge and potential assistance in regards to finding and setting spies. The Archmage should be aware that any agreement will be bound by contract and witnessed by the lictors, and that, as a representative of the Empire, any such agreements will be considered legally binding on the Empire. The next Eternal is Phaleron. The Eternal Phaleron will grant a parley to Gralka at midday on Saturday in the Hall of Worlds. At the start of the winter solstice, the Archmage of Day is Gancius della Notte de Salvos. In response to a request from Gralka, the Eternal Phaleron will grant parley to the Empire at midday on Saturday. It will discuss the new archive, the proposed emissary of Phaleron, the preservation of the Anvil Library, and potentially the aid it continues to offer in Morrow. This will be a formal parley and will take place in the Hall of Worlds. Any who wish to attend are welcome, but the rules of the parley, that the Archmage or their proxy shall speak, and all others speak only with their permission, will be in operation. Up next, Waisrangara. Waisrangara will send representatives to the Hall of Worlds at 2 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. The Winter Archmage is to bring 6 students of the Academy with them to the Hall of Worlds. She does not agree to parley, but guarantees safe passage and return. At the start of the winter solstice, the winter archmage is Sin Truthwalker returned. Shortly before the winter solstice, a peculiar ramshackle creature of sticks, straw and bones and cloth emerges from the Imperial Regio and stumbles its way down to the hub. The creature attracts some attention, obviously, but ignores everyone until it identifies a civil servant. Then, in a disturbingly sing-song voice, it delivers a message from the Winter Eternal, Wise Rangara, to be passed along to the Winter Archmage. Wise Rangara will offer a meeting to the Empire, but not a parley. She does guarantee safe passage and return, though, and will discuss, among other things, questions related to poison. She requests that the Winter Archmage attend the Hall of Worlds in the company of 6 students of the Academy at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, where they will be met by an emissary who will provide an escort to those who will speak to Grandmother's brewer. Having delivered its message, the peculiar scarecrow returns back whence it came. Next, Lashanar. Lashanar offers parley with the Empire at 3 p.m. on Saturday. At the start of the winter solstice, the Archmage of Night is Alicia Thane of Urizen. A week after the autumn equinox, an argent and sable herald with the aspect of a painfully thin bird visits the civil service hub and delivers, over the course of an hour and a half, a message from their master, the Eternal Lashanar. The one known as Conscience of Kings and Keeper of the Gates of Wisdom is reportedly a little disappointed, because it thought it had communicated more clearly that plenipotentiary and parley are always at their most effective when the expectations of the Empire, as represented by the Archmage, are laid out clearly, so that everyone involved has a clear idea of what may, or indeed may not, be discussed during any subsequent meeting, so that everyone involved deals from an equal position of readiness. In the absence of such specifics from an Archmage, the Eternal, in this case Eater of Silence, known as Lashanar, would always be tempted to decline the parley, but in this case has decided that instead it will meet with the Archmage of Night, but set the topics to be discussed itself, which is what it has done, and chooses to do so through the auspices of one of its favourite heralds, who is well versed in the matters under review. The topics for discussion are thus to be the creation and use of the Caucasus Forum, which Lashanar has been considering carefully in light of recent successes by the Empire, to reach out to their neighbours, both close and distant, and resolve disputes between them with words rather than swords. The Empire's admirable ambassadorial efforts with other nations, not least in regard to their International Trade Summit. Although Lashanar has little interest in trade, it has significant interest in summits, and the matter of the desecration of the meeting place, a dreadful crime which the Archmage of Night will be called upon to explain to the Eternal. In the event that these 3 matters are resolved to Lashanar's satisfaction, then there may be a chance to hear what the Archmage of Night wanted to talk about, but there's no guarantee, and it may turn out that there is no time left to do so. The Eternal invites the Archmage of Night to bring 1 guest themselves, but further asks for 2 additional guests of a specific nature to be included in their party, namely Eliza de Savos, who has impressed the Herald Rossignol with a desire to seek diplomatic solutions to problems and increase communication and peace between nations, and a representative of the Celestial Arch, Order of the Imperial Conclave, whose remit is most in line with Lashanar's philosophies of speech and diplomacy. 1 word of caution, however: Lashanar does not hold with the constraints placed on a formal parley, by the idea that the Archmage alone may determine who speaks and who does not, and as such, while the meeting will be formal, in all other regards the Eternal expects that everyone there will speak as they wish, without any traditions of order and permission, including on the free discourse they will enjoy with Lashanar's diplomat. After the herald leaves, the civil service prepare a more succinct summary of the message for the Archmage and their fellow Imperial magicians. In summary, regarding Lashanar, the party will meet Lashanar's representative in a chamber at 3 p.m. on Saturday, in addition to the Archmage and 1 other of their choice. Eliza de Savos is also invited, as is a representative of the Celestial Arch Conclave Order. Lashana will discuss the caucus forum and matters related to ambassadors. It also expects the Empire to explain the destruction of the meeting place. If there is time, the Archmage may bring up other concerns, but Lashana makes no promises. While this will be a formal parley, Lashana expects everyone to speak freely rather than waiting on recognition from the Archmage. The last Eternal is Rhiannos. Rhiannos has declined the invitation to a parley, but offers aid in a different form. At the start of the winter solstice, the Archmage of Summer is Luke of the Shattered Tower. Shortly before the winter solstice, the Regent of the Eternal Sea, known as the Eternal Rhiannos, sent 3 emissaries to the Castle of Thorns to politely decline an invitation to parley as presented by the Summer Archmage. The heralds stressed that the message itself was excellent, but their master simply believes deeds are more useful than words. With that in mind, they bring congratulations to the Empire for their successes in their raid against the Dutraig, and enthusiastically encourage Imperial captains to make even more use of Andres Isol Devorador y Irigo's excellent little enchantment, the Golden Voyage. These emissaries claim that Rhiannos has already nudged things a little so that there will be further opportunities for adventure in the coming months, and Rhiannos offers their support for any similar endeavours. Here's a timetable. Friday, 10 p.m, is Ira Hara. That's the Spring Realm, and it's a formal parley. On Friday at 11 p.m, the meeting will be with Basilius Flint. His realm is Autumn, and it's a formal parley. On Saturday at 12 p.m, that will be the Eternal Phaleron. His realm is Day, and it is a formal parley. On Saturday at 2 p.m, the Eternal will be Wise Rangara. Her realm is Winter, but it is not a formal parley. And finally, Saturday at 3 p.m, the meeting will be with Lashana. His realm is Night, and it is a formal parley.